You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage. Over.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with you. So glad you can join us, whether you're listening at www.behindenemylinesradio.us or if you're checking us out on AM radio, FM radio, internet radio. We're glad you tuned in, locked and loaded. Or if we're traveling along with you as a podcast, we're so happy to be along for the ride. We've got a great show this week. We got, for the first time ever, a Democrat has stepped up to the plate to go behind enemy lines with us. And I'm talking about self-proclaimed conservative Democrat, attorneys for civil rights matters, talk show host in the Atlanta, Georgia area, Robert Patillo is going to join us to talk about the main issue that is redefining American culture right now. And that is this whole controversy over kneeling during NFL games by NFL players for the national anthem. Now, folks, there can be a million different things we can be talking about right now. There are so many important issues that we could be dealing with at this point. The president's new tax reform package that we can talk about that has business owners jumping for joy, but not necessarily middle-class citizens or, Democrats whose heads are exploding over this. We could be talking about disaster relief in any number of places, including Florida, Louisiana, Texas, Puerto Rico. We're going to be talking about so many more important things. But here we are, probably a week after, as this show is being broadcast and you're hearing it, a week after the President of the United States chimed in on an issue that really had been simmering for about a year and a half. And it all started with Buffoon of the Year nominee Colin Kaepernick, if you remember our Buffoon of the Year contest last year, kneeling during the national anthem in protest of what he considered to be the disproportionate violence by police against African Americans. Now, this has morphed and evolved and been co-opted over and over, and we'll talk about that with Robert Patillo later in the show. But I want to frame the issue as best I can right now, so we can have a good jumping off point for when we're talking about what's going on, what the real issues are, and how things are being morphed and changed. Politics is very strange, folks, as you know. If you're listening to this show, you're probably already seasoned in politics somewhat. You don't find us and as a novice in politics and think that you know everything or that, you're even remotely interested in the nuances. You have to be if you're listening to this show. And that's cool. We like you guys a lot. Newcomers, especially if you're listening at our new time, you're more than welcome as well. But let's frame an issue together. The issue of whether a football player can kneel during the national anthem is separate than the issue of should a football player kneel during the national anthem. And we're going to take those two separate issues and talk about them separately. First one being, can a player kneel? The short answer is maybe. There's two things at play here. First is the idea that someone has First Amendment rights to free speech, which, by the way, when everybody brings up a free speech argument, I don't think people realize that free speech is a protection from government regulating your speech, not necessarily a business or an employer regulating your speech. There are certain things you give up when you are employed by someone. One of them is possibly the idea to protest on the job an issue that your boss may or may not like you to protest. We all have to go through this all the time. I cannot speak out against the interests of a client because I think that the client is not a good person. When I'm dealing in my law practice, I have to deal with the client, and the client has certain rights that I have to preserve, even if I don't like them, because my boss has taken the client in, and I'm subject to his assignment of work. He has to tell me what cases I can work on, which ones I don't. He helps me game plan what my work will entail. Same thing with an NFL player. You're a player on the Bears who may be scheduled to play the Packers isn't going to say, well, I'm going to go play the Giants this week. That's not what happens. A player who's assigned to be an offensive tackle doesn't say, well, I'm going to be a wide receiver this week. Doesn't happen. A player says, I don't want to do the run and shoot offense. I want to do, more of a ground and pound running game. That's not his call. There's a hierarchy to every business, whether professional sports or your everyday business life. People are told what to do and what to say all the time in their jobs. So there is no First Amendment protection for people against their employer. There is protection against government infringing upon free speech. That's what the First Amendment's all about. So whether or not you can or not will depend upon whether your employer is willing to tolerate what you're saying, whether they feel it's an important issue for the business as a whole to tolerate. You saw that with Jerry Jones going down with his players and kneeling, but doing so before the game. You see it with the NBA saying and circulating memos to teams saying all players are required to stand for the anthem. You see it in different aspects of life. You have employee handbooks that you must follow. I'm sure that there are plenty of businesses, larger businesses, that have media scrutiny that tell their employees that they cannot speak out to the media on issues of business concern. It's all out there all the time. So what makes an NFL player different? There is no difference. Your employer will determine whether you can or not. Now, whether you can convince your employer, like Colin Kaepernick did, or other players have, that this is important and you want to do it, like the Pittsburgh Steelers decided, is something to be debated. Now you're getting into the should you portion of the show. Should the player, Mr. Villanueva from the Steelers, gone out in defiance of what his employers said and stand there and salute the flag? It's a matter of debate. His employer said no. Was there any retribution from it? Again, that would be up to the employer. We shall see. But the point being is when you are employed by someone, you give up certain quote-unquote rights and privileges that you think you have in exchange for being paid to perform a task the manner in which is directed by your employer. That takes care of the can. The can issue is, nebulous and all that. The next issue is should. Should players kneel for the anthem in protest of any issue? And frankly, I have to break this down in a couple of different ways. Way number one is, what exactly are you protesting? Has there been a clear articulation of what you want to protest? And whether your team has approved it or not, fine. But what is it you're protesting? Colin Kaepernick was very clear. In recent weeks with the NFL, it has not been so clear. I believe that different players are responding to different things. One of which they're doing is they're manifesting a reaction to President Trump's comments that people who are protesting are SOBs and should be fired. One man's opinion, exercising his right to that opinion, to express it, and there's a knee-jerk reaction coming from NFL teams, NFL management, the league in general, and players. So are we now protesting getting down on our knees? Are we protesting police violence against minorities? Are we protesting Donald Trump being mad that you're doing it? Are you protesting something else? I don't know. It needs to be articulated. If it's articulated internally within the team, fine. I don't need to hear it. But it needs to be articulated. The second part of this is, why do it during the national anthem? The national anthem is a time that is meant to bring the nation together before a game, regardless of what side you're on. We all stand up in unison together. The anthem plays out of respect for the country that allows such a sport to exist, that allows a climate by which we have freedom and liberty. And then we get on with the competition. We even do the same and give the courtesy to other teams that come from other parts of the world that play sports in the United States. We play the Canadian national anthem during the NHL games. And everyone, whether they're American or Canadian, remains standing for that, out of respect for that country. I guess the issue comes down to respect. Are you disrespecting the nation by protesting at a moment that is meant and intended to bring the nation together as one? I think it's inappropriate in this respect. You are now creating a division at a moment of unity. Whether you can protest and whether, people fought and died for the right for you to protest, that's all well and good. I think a soldier, a combat veteran, a military veteran, any type of veteran would be able to say, you know what? I fought for the right for you to do this. I get it. I may not like the content of what you're saying, but fine, you have rights to do it, subject to the rights of your boss to stop you from doing it. But to do it to the anthem, I think is just disrespectful to those people who fought for those rights for us to enjoy. I think it's disrespectful, especially, veterans overseas, combat veterans overseas, those in forward areas overseas, they want to be entertained by an NFL game. They don't want to deal with protests and political issues and all these concerns. There's a better way, I guess is what I'm saying, than protesting the anthem. You can do what the Cowboys did and protest before the anthem. There are many different ways that you can have your voice heard. You can go out into your community, NFL players, and you can decide to be a force for change in those communities. Why not organize meetings between community groups and the police to see what you can get done? Why not donate to groups that you believe will forward your cause and give them the ammunition financially to do what they can in their communities? Why not get active in groups and actually create a group of your own and do that off the field on your own time with your own money? I would support that. It doesn't matter what your message is, but you would have the right to do that. I just don't want you doing it during the anthem. To me, that's a sacred time. I mean, when I used to be a season ticket holder to some baseball games, some minor league baseball, one of the things that I always did around my section is if there was someone wearing a cap during the anthem before the baseball game, we would kindly ask that person in the section to remove their cap and show respect. It's just something that you did. I mean, even now during, the Super Bowl, or can I say Super Bowl? I don't even know if I can. During the big game, I stand up in my living room, Whitney Houston singing, whoever may be singing. I would stand up in my living room for that, out of respect. I think respect, though it may be in the eye of the beholder, there are certain things that we should be able to agree upon. One of those things we should be able to agree upon is that there are certain moments when we all need to just stand in reverence and unify together. And then we can fight about all our differences later on. Look, I believe that there needs to be a discussion. As our guest Robert Patillo, who you'll hear from in a little bit, agrees. There needs to be a discussion about race in America and police activity with people of color. However, if you look at the numbers, when you look at violent acts by police against, private citizens, the majority of the people who are bearing the brunt of that are not people of color, by the way. They're people like me, white males who are being attacked, if you want to say attacked, brutalized, if you want to say brutalized, having intentional acts committed against them that may or may not have been necessary. We need to address a culture that has police harming first and asking questions later. I don't think that that's an issue. I think that's a healthy discussion. Whether it be handled at the federal level through, amending of civil rights laws and making penalties there, or be handled at the local level. Whether it's federal or local, I'm open to that discussion. But let's do it at the right moment. And during the national anthem, during an NFL game, is not the right moment. What you're doing is you're turning off a lot of the people who would, like me, who would be willing to talk to you, who would be willing to address these issues. And I think by doing that, you're doing a disservice to your cause. I think by making it a black-white issue, you are doing a disservice to your cause. You would have so many more people joining you if you didn't do that, NFL players. And again, it's not about whether you can or not. The can side we addressed. It's up to the team. It's a gray area. It's whether you should, at this moment, before a game, bring politics into it. Because all you're going to do is take eyes off your product, leave negative impressions by some people regarding you and the league you wish to play in, and it brings down the pot of money for everyone. It's not the right time. It's not the right place. There is a time and place for the discussion, but this isn't it. And by the way, let's talk about the spin for a second here. About, first of all, the spin of the left to co-opt a movement where they weren't willing to run on an issue, such as police brutality against people of color. They weren't willing to outright come out on the issue. If you looked at the 2016 election, how many times did you hear Hillary Clinton talking about it? How many times did you hear Bernie Sanders talking about it? How many times did you hear the DNC talking about it? You didn't. It wasn't an issue that they knew they could win on, so therefore they didn't run on it. How often does the left take an issue and co-opt it like this? I remember going to protests about the brutality and death of Eric Garner here in the People's Republic of New York City. And I would see signs at this movement with websites on them for the People's Labor Party or for, some other communist fringe party. And I would say to myself, why are these people here for a police protest? What they're doing is trying to co-opt a movement. You're seeing mainstream politics try to take a passion and turn it and bend it to their own will in order to show that this is an issue they own. And if they own that issue, then they own your vote. The presidential election on the Democratic side did a half-assed job of this. They tried to make it their issue. They tried to get those to vote, but they tried to do it in such a way to keep the center happy as well. And they didn't do a good job of it because obviously Donald Trump won. Now let's talk about what Donald Trump is doing because it's absolutely sheer brilliance. Donald Trump has taken this issue and turned it into about patriotism, American pride, and the anthem itself. And done so successfully. What are people talking about with this? They're talking about Donald Trump saying that these players should be fired and that the anthem is sacred. And in doing so, we're not talking about the latest failure of getting Obamacare repealed. We're not talking about any other major issues that Trump has not delivered on. We're not talking about the merits of his tax reform policy. We're talking about how Trump is battling the culture again. How Trump is Trump versus media, Trump versus liberal culture, Trump versus NFL, Trump versus whoever you want it to be. But by the way, there's still no wall. There's still no Obamacare repeal. And the tax plan is currently out there and we haven't even talked about it yet. So how brilliant is Donald Trump in manipulating media? We talk about that with Robert Patillo later. We'll go into depth with it further. And you know what? Let's do that right after this break. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear from so-called conservative Democrat, radio show host out of Atlanta, Georgia, and civil rights attorney Robert Patillo, talking about this very issue with the NFL and the protest and the anthem. And we're going to do it right after this. Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines. We'll be back right after these brief words. If you're a long-time listener of the show, or maybe this is your first time listening, you can probably tell that me and the gang here, we like to have our share of fun, whether it's on or off the air. We talk about 2-drink minimum radio and no medication Wednesdays or whatever day it may be. That's why when we found the people at Less Government, More Fun, we knew it was a match made in heaven with this show. Folks, we live in a time where government is out of hand. Our founding fathers did not intend government to be all-consuming in all parts of our lives. That's why we are telling you to go to lessgovmorefun.com, check out the website, check out the swag. What the people want is less government, more fun. Pass it on, make it happen.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines Radio is all about being right. No, seriously, it is. If you ever listen to Russ Gallo or me go back and forth on some issue, we always want to make sure that we remember who said what and when we said it. That's why we go to GoOnRecord.com. It's a brand new social media website. Challenge people on what they believe, whether it's in politics, sports, entertainment, finance, whatever. There's a category for you at GoOnRecord.com. Check it out right now. Tell us, what do you stand for? It's time for you to go on record.
Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air.
Gene Baradelli, back behind Enemy Lines. Joining me on the line, it's a pleasure to welcome to the show probably the first on this show. This is the first Democrat in the history of Behind Enemy Lines Radio coming on the show as a guest. He is a conservative Democrat, an attorney, and a talk show host in the Atlanta area. I'm talking to Robert Patillo. Robert, congratulations for making history, man. First Democrat on Behind Enemy Lines Radio.
Hey, thanks, Gene. I'm behind enemy lines, so it's great to be with you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So listen, full disclosure, we have a lot in common, actually. We're both attorneys, we both do talk shows, and we both have definite opinions upon this whole NFL boycott, national anthem, Colin Kaepernick situation. Let's get into the wonky legal part of this, because there's been a lot of questions about First Amendment rights versus, the rights of an employee to speak out while on the job and things like that. Where do you come in on this?
Well, it's not a First Amendment issue because we're not talking about government. The First Amendment protects your rights from the government being able to curtail your speech. Your employer can curtail your speech all you feel like. If we both walk into court tomorrow and start cursing up a storm, the judge has the right to hold us in contempt of court. Anybody who goes into their job and violate company policy on speech will be either disciplined or fired. So it's not a First Amendment issue that we're discussing because it's not governmental policy which is affecting their ability to speak out. I think the free speech part of it is the distraction from the bigger issue, which is what they're actually protesting in the first place.
Absolutely. And the question then becomes, what exactly are they protesting? I think with Colin Kaepernick, we know, because he's kind of said it in not so many words. But with regards to the rest of the league, are they protesting an issue or are they protesting President Trump?
Well, I think they're protesting an issue because, remember, this protest started before Trump was president. This started during the Obama administration. Kaepernick's initial protest was in response to President Obama, Loretta Lynch, and Eric Holder failing to address the issue of every week a video of a black guy getting shot being on television. So I don't think it's an anti-Trump protest. Now, what happened is you had the left-wing media attach onto it and turn into now it's their issue. You know, you saw Hillary slither out last week, and now she's showing support for the issue, but they weren't showing the same support last year during the election cycle. So after, I think the movement's been going for 6 years to have, it's a very simple issue. Federal legislation to protect individuals from being shot by police unless it's absolutely necessary. It's a simple legislative issue, but because the Obama administration, the Democratic Party in general, I think there was a memo put out by Nancy Pelosi in 2015 telling candidates not to address the issue. So because of those failures, that like escalated to the point of being an international level protest. They were just protesting at the NFL game in London again this week. So that's why it grew into the size of the issue that it is.
And once again, we have politics muddying the waters of what could be a clear issue. Now, listen, I may not necessarily agree that the federal government can enter in and try to regulate police powers. Obviously, you know, federal civil rights issues, I believe they can regulate through legislation. I think it's a fine line. But at the same time, we have politics muddying the waters because I think that with every movement, it's getting co-opted by other people. Do you see that coming either from the left or from the right, trying to change what the message was originally being?
Oh, absolutely. Even I'll give you a perfect analogy. If you look at when the Tea Party started,
exactly what I was thinking.
A whole bunch of people who were really intense had a very specific issue, and then you had, you know, political action committees and the RNC come in and try to co-opt it and change their message and turn them into a political apparatus in a voter base as opposed to actually fighting for their issues. It's the same thing with this issue. These the people who are protesting, all they want is anybody, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, Green Party, Martian, to come out and say we're introducing legislation and we're going to pass legislation to just tamp down the number. We know at some point that there's certain individuals that they're posing an actual threat to law enforcement. You know, my older sister is a police officer for 30 years in the Charlotte area. So I respect and want to protect our police officers, but just some of the trigger-happy officers who their first response to anything is to shoot first. That is all they're asking for. And so when you turn it into a left-right issue, when you turn it into a liberal versus conservative issue, when we turn it into an anti-Trump issue, now we've gotten so far from the point that I think a lot of people who were protesting don't know what the original point was, and a lot of people who are mad at the protesters also don't know what the original point was.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people who are just joining recently into this issue are protesting in direct response to the president using strong language, using the term SOB in reference to NFL player protesters, and then trying to convert it into an issue as to whether the president is a racist. That's got to be, that to me is an explosive component that tamps down the debate that you just outlined.
Oh, and absolutely. And for all the people who are saying this now, you know, the great thing about being in 2017 is we have the benefit of video. So roll back all these people from 2015, 2014, 2013, all the way back to 2011, and see what they were saying about the issue then, because the issue has remained the same. I think what President Trump has done, I call him the greatest media genius of our generation, because he absolutely knows how to read the media zeitgeist. You know, you always see the media that, well, Trump is watching cable news all day. He's on the internet all day. What he's doing, monitoring public opinion, paying attention to what issues his base is talking about, what's trending, what they're tweeting about, and he knows how to push and prod them whenever there's something that he wants to keep us from paying attention to. The same way that the SOB comment came the week before the failure of Obamacare repeal. Remember when he tweeted out the transgender ban was the day before the failure of the skinny repeal. So whenever he has a big issue coming up, he tries to distract with a cultural issue so his base won't revolt about, well, why is there no wall? Why is Obamacare still here? And why haven't we seen the reforms that you said you were going to bring? He can use these cultural issues to distract from those main facts.
It's actually quite brilliant as you outline it right there. It's absolute genius because it's almost, dare I say, it's almost a tactic of the left of deflection and misdirection. And to see it used by President Trump, he turned it from an issue of that I believe, and I agree with what you say, is a serious issue that can be dealt with through legislation and through a change of culture in local police departments. But he turned it into an issue regarding the national anthem and patriotism and American pride. Truly was a brilliant stroke.
Yeah, this is why I say he's the media genius of our generation, because few people have that. It's almost like if you watch old kung fu movies, they would have the drunken master on the side of the road. So, the heroes coming in, then there's like just a drunk guy who pretends to be crazy on the side of the road, and then he'll just jump up and be the grand kung fu master. That's the role that Trump likes to play. And that he tries to pretend that he's off kilter and crazy, and the media eats it up like, oh my God, what's wrong with them? And the whole time he's playing them for fools. So what he does, he throws these issues out. He changes the narrative because he has the biggest microphone on earth. He can change world policy in 140 characters. So he throws people off of the scent. Then that gives him time to work through his actual legislative agenda. We haven't talked at all about what's in the new tax cut plan and who's this going to affect. We haven't talked at all about, well, why did Graham Cassidy fail? Because we've been talking about these cultural issues, and the media just loves a good race story. They sop it up, this like mother's milk to them. So he's brilliant in the way he does it. But I think this is a place where liberals and conservatives can actually come together, because if you look at the raw numbers, more white people get shot by the cops every year than black people. There are more cases of over-policing and brutality against white people than black people. So it's not a race issue. So if both sides just came together and said, well, let's address it, then you wouldn't have the overarching racial aspect to it. But by turning into a race issue, you get the conservative media on one side, the liberal media on one side, and they just butt heads instead of attacking the problem.
Yeah, and I guess my next question is, as we're talking to Robert Patillo, who is a conservative Democrat and a radio show host out of the Atlanta area, I guess my next question following from what you said is the divide too wide right now to even think about having coverage whereby you actually talk about issues and policy failures and policy initiatives and all this? It seems like we may be too far gone, at least at this point, to even start to do that.
Well, I don't think so, and that's why I'm glad that we've had the democratization of information through the internet. By having talk radio stations, by having internet podcasts and blogs, you can actually have deeper conversations than just the standard 60-second cable news back and forth. I'll go on Fox News every few weeks, and afterwards I'll have conservatives in my emailing me or mentioning me on Twitter, and they'll say, you crazy liberal SOB, this and the other. But then after I go back and forth with them over a couple messages, we come to a place where we can understand. So it's just about getting the two sides to talk. It's almost like you're doing a divorce where the two sides come in at loggerheads. So once you can start getting them talking, you can get to an agreement. You might not get them back together and back in love, but you can at least get to an agreement where they can split up the house, the property, and the kids.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you're a civil rights attorney in your real life, and just like me, I think every attorney wants to not be an attorney for their whole life, and they actually want to make a difference. Talk a bit about your talk radio show and how you're bringing this about in the Atlanta area. By the way, folks, if you're in the Atlanta area and you're listening to CBS Radio and WAOK AM 1380 from 1 to 4, you can check out Robert's show. Tell everybody what they can expect from hearing from you on your show.
Well, it's a very fair-sided conversation. We will have everything from Pan-African black nationalists to the Ku Klux Klan on, depending on the week. I call it a conversation, not confrontation. So I don't come in with an agenda. It's more so about just presenting every aspect of a discussion and letting the listener make up their own mind about it. I'm not here to shove my opinion down your throat. I want to give you enough information where you can make an informed decision.
That's so adult of you. I don't know if I can talk to you anymore. You're being too much of an adult right now. No, but you know what? That's a goal of our show as well. I always tell people, don't take my word for it. Here's the information you can look up yourself, and you make your own decision on it. I think that's a very mature thing. And it's very rare to see, not only in talk radio, but just in politics in general lately. And I'm very glad to... Listen, I'm agreeing with a conservative Democrat on my own radio show. What is the world coming to, Robert?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, you know, I grew up in South Georgia in a little town called Waverly Hall. So you have the black people on one side of town, and you have the conservative white folks on the other side of town. We go to church together, we go to school together, we fish together, we listen to the same music, we go to the same parks, do all the same thing, and the only thing that we disagree on is politics. And so as long as we allow the political system to create these divisions and disagreements, that's how the upper ruling oligarchical classes are able to keep us down, to keep us poor folks snipping and fighting at each other while they run off with all the money. So I think when we bridge that divide, we're going to see real changes in the country, because the same problems with the white working class are the same problems with the urban black people who also have the same economic anxiety.
I'm so happy to hear you say things like this, and I think we need more people like you, Robert, saying things like this. A lot of the issues today know no color, and they don't know partisanship, and they're all issues that we all need to face together. And I'm glad to find a partner on the other side that I can be able to talk to more often about this.
Anytime, you know, I'm always here for you.
Well, listen, everybody, check out Robert's show. Even if you're not in the Atlanta area, find the live stream for WAOK AM 1380 from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Robert gives listeners a no-nonsense commentary, as you can hear, and discusses many of the prevailing issues. Check him out on the interwebs as well, on Facebook, / Robert Patillo. Patillo, I keep trying to make you Spanish. I keep doing that. I gotta stop doing that. On Twitter, there you go. On Twitter, at Robert Patillo, and also on Instagram, the same. And you can check him out on the YouTubes. Jobs, Justice, and Dreams. He doesn't have a face for radio, folks. He's actually quite a good-looking guy, if I may say so. Robert Patillo, thanks so much for coming on. And listen, I want to definitely continue the discussion with you, not only on, you know, as an attorney and a professional level, but on a personal level, man. You're cool as hell. Thanks so much for coming on.
All right, thanks for having me.
Hey folks, I just want to let you know about a great opportunity for listeners of Behind Enemy Lines Radio. If you go to our website, www.behindenemylinesradio.us, and click on the SaneBox ad on the right side of the page, you will get a great opportunity for a discounted offer to join SaneBox. SaneBox filters out all the unimportant email from your inbox so that you can really focus on what matters. If you're anything like me, folks, you get hundreds of pieces of email a day, not many of which is important. SaneBox's smart filter will get everything you need to fly through your inbox and finally make email work for you. It gets rid of spam emails, it deprioritizes emails that aren't as important to you, and it helps you unsubscribe from mailing lists and individual senders with ease. So again, go to www.behindenemylinesradio.us and you click on the SaneBox ad and you'll be given an exclusive offer you won't find anywhere else. Time for a little music. We call this, What the F*** is Maxine Waters Saying?
To be clear, you believe it would have been better to keep in place an FBI director who you said had no credibility to oversee this investigation than to find someone who you think would be a better choice?
No. But I believe the president thought that. Don't forget. You're talking about what some Democrats said, what I said, but don't forget, he was the president. The president supported him. You had confidence in him. It was within his power. And
but you said he had no credibility, so it would seem to make sense that he should get rid of him.
No. Under investigation, this president basically has interfered with an investigation where he may be implicated. That's outrageous, and that's why we're having so much of a conversation about it today.
The bottom line is that you think an FBI director without credibility would have been best served in this position to try to pursue this investigation.
I think if the president had fired him when he first came in, he would not have to be in a position now where he's trying to make up a story about why. It does not meet the smell test.
Yeah, something smells all right.
Understood. So if Hillary Clinton had won the White House, would you have recommended that she fire FBI Director James Comey?
Well, let me tell you something. If she had won the White House, I believe that given what he did to her and what he tried to do, she should have fired him.
So she should have fired him, but he shouldn't have fired him. This is why I'm confused.
No, you're not confused.
Yes, I am. Gene Baradelli, back behind enemy lines. Hey, in case you haven't noticed, we have a brand new time where we broadcast now. We're on Talk America Radio on Tuesdays at midnight now. Great new time slot for us. We really appreciate Talk America Radio accommodating us for that. And you know what? Let's go through the credits right now. Thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene. Russ Gallo will be back with us next week as we start our new broadcasting schedule. And you can always check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, which we're going to be doing live on the weekends, it's going to be on Sundays now, check us out on any one of our rebroadcast outlets, including WJHC 107.5 FM in beautiful Jasper, Florida. WDDQ, Let's Talk 92.1 FM, Adele, Georgia. WLBB News Talk 1330 AM, Carrollton, Georgia. All part of the Talk America Radio Network. So proud to be part of that network with that great group of people. You can also check us out at KLRN Radio. Also check us out at High Plains Talk Radio, Sackheads Media, ICRN, the Internet's conservative radio network, which powers the Talk America Radio Network. Easy for me to say. And, of course, Lanterns Radio. Check them out on the webs at lanterns.buzz. Again, I love that website so much. But if you miss any of our rebroadcasts, don't worry. Not a problem. We forgive you. You can always check us out as a podcast. We're available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Player FM, Podbay, TuneIn. You can check us out on Auto Radio, which is a project of Sirius XM satellite radio. You can check us out on Google Play Music. Discover us there. SoundCloud, of course. And the mighty iHeartRadio Network. I think Player FM as well. You can throw that in there. So many different outlets you can find us on. Check them all out. Check out the show any which way you can. We love that you do it. A little bit is, like I said, programming note. Tuesdays at midnight from now on our broadcast on the terrestrials, which is awesome. We also want to extend our congratulations to the Majority Report. Yes, once again, we are the bridesmaid and not the bride with the podcast awards. Our second time around, we indeed, did a great job, and I want to thank all our listeners for supporting us in that endeavor. Even though it's something we didn't really push for, you guys put us into it, which was phenomenal. Thank you so much for that. But congratulations to the Majority Report. Yes, they're a left-leaning show, but we forgive them for that. Another great win for them. I think it's now 5 times they've won this award. For the podcast awards. So congratulations to them, and all the best to all the nominees, and all the winners of the podcast awards. We'll see you again next year, hopefully. So right now, let's do some quick hits. Some news stories that we followed here behind enemy lines that has made news, but you didn't know about it because of this whole NFL protest thing that has engulfed all of our lives for the past 2 weeks or so. So the first thing we need to talk about is our perennial buffoon of the year, who actually won last year, Anthony Weiner. Well, he's off to the pokey, folks. finally sentenced in, for federal charges of, I don't even know what they were, but they were of a sexual nature with a minor at this point for exchanging photos and messages with a 15-year-old. Going to jail for 21 months. Was sentenced recently. Was sobbing in court because he was hoping to get off with no time whatsoever. And, well, I guess that's the end of that sad, sordid chapter of U.S. political history and political history in the People's Republic of New York City. Anthony Weiner, we knew too much about you, and now, I guess, prison is going to find out a lot more about you. Don't drop the soap, homie. Another issue we've been talking about behind enemy lines that the mainstream media hasn't really talked about is the kangaroo courts that have been pervasive on campus when it comes to accusations of sexual misconduct by college students are now no more. Thanks to Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos, the 2011 memo that we talked about with Michelle Harris a couple months ago has now been rescinded, and these kangaroo courts where colleges and campuses and universities do not afford due process towards people who are accused of misconduct. And we're talking about people, we're talking about teenage boys accused of sexual misconduct. Some for reasons that would be so innocuous, like leaning in for a kiss that was unwanted and then being brought up on charges and possibly expelled for it. And we talked with attorney Michelle Harris about this as well. That memo has now been rescinded, so goodbye to the era of the Obama kangaroo courts on campus. And speaking about on-campus activities, if you've been following these issues with free speech and on Berkeley and all these other places, it's like people have lost common sense. Our next generation has now been inundated with a generation of liberal ideas. Everybody gets a participation trophy. Everybody is special little snowflakes that demand, to be treated of equal and highest value possible, despite merit, despite differences in intelligence, despite everything that you could think of that makes individuals unique. We're all the same. We just all be treated the same. We all have the same dignity, the same respect, and all this stuff. Regardless of how we treat other people, regardless of the merit of our work, regardless of anything. We're seeing these campuses literally imploding on themselves with protests of people saying that speech that I don't agree with must be shouted down. My goodness. Is this what we've come to? It's absolutely mind-boggling, folks, for me to think that I have the right to suppress your speech because I don't like the content of what you're saying. How dare you? It's absolutely ridiculous. It goes hand in hand with this Obama-era kangaroo courts thing with, no due process rights. Seems like exercise of rights is just wrong in campuses where I guess the liberal logic and the liberal mentality still reigns. But it's good to see progress on all these fronts. Progress with Anthony Weiner getting the justice he deserves. Progress with these kangaroo courts going by the wayside. And to see this previously unchallenged idea of liberal bents on college campuses being challenged at every turn. It's good to see all that. So there is a common thread with all these quick hits that we're talking about right now, and it's that we are at a momentous time in our country where we're starting to see a transition from liberal thought to a combat of ideas, a battlefield, if you will, to take it from our friend Chris Pilley over at Lanterns. There's a battlefield of ideas going on right now. Tell me that show name isn't prophetic in that respect. And it's interesting to see that there are those of a younger generation who are stepping up to the front lines of this battle to take on, those Antifa thugs out there who are trying to suppress speech, who are trying to suppress idea sharing. And if anything, the exchange we just had with Robert Patillo shows that there can be a common ground met between two different ideologies. You can meet somewhere. If you start off with basic human decency, if you start out with just respect for the other side, it can happen and it will happen again. Speaking of human decency, it's time for my final thought. I want to thank you guys for listening first and foremost. I want to thank Robert Patillo for coming on the show and being the first Democrat to do so, to step up in that respect. It's absolutely phenomenal to see, and I so appreciate that Robert being that first one to crack open the door. Hopefully it'll lead to others coming behind enemy lines with us and discussing and exchanging ideas. I'm hopeful for that. But the final thought is a message to conservatives. This week we saw the return of Congressman Scalise to the halls of Congress, and it was a beautiful and unifying thing to see a standing ovation for this man walking in. But I'm not talking about giving Democrats a chance to talk. Obviously, ideas are one thing, people are another thing. And that kind of leads me to talking about Speaker Ryan. Now, Speaker Ryan's not someone who I've admired in the past. I don't believe that he has great ideas for a leader. I don't think he's a great leader. I don't think his negotiating style is all that great. But after watching a video from CBS News of Paul Ryan seeing Steve Scalise in Congress for the first time, after seeing that video and being able to share that moment, at least through video, I will never again question what is in the heart of Speaker Paul Ryan.
Oh, look who's here.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh.
Speaker. Back. Just so good to see you. Man, oh, man, it's been a long time. Oh, Jesus. Wow. This is great. I'm sorry. Look, he's got a full John Boehner. He's got a full blade. Thank you.
Jennifer. Oh.
We cried a lot of tears in the hospital in those first few days.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, Nora, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, my God. Thanks for helping us I know you worked with my staff a lot to make this day work. And it's going to be a special day.
This is just incredible. You look so good.
Look at this.
You look so good, man. Oh,
thanks.
Do you remember the first time you came to Steve?
I do.
And he opened his eyes.
I do. I remember that.
I remember. That was one of the first.
You actually remember that?
People. Oh, absolutely. There weren't many I remembered. When Pence came, we actually.
I could. Remember we were holding his hands, and then you actually open your eyes.
Yeah. Because Jennifer said, "Keep talking. He can hear you."
I gave him a hard time because I said, Steve, you didn't even open your eyes for me. When you heard
because we
Paul's
wouldn't know
voice,
if we could even hear. I know it's amazing.
When you heard Paul's voice, you opened your eyes.
Gosh. I've been looking forward to this moment for more than you can imagine.
Oh, you got crutches?
I've got crutches. Yeah.
So what's it like to have him back?
He thought you'd carry him.
It's you got it. Yeah.
I've seen his workout regime. He can.
Yeah.
I don't have words for it. I can't describe it.
Yeah.
I've never felt this kind of an emotion before. Your presence is going to bring so much healing to people here. Everywhere I go in America, first question, how's Steve Scalise? How's the Scalise family? Please tell them we're praying for them. Please tell Jennifer and Madison Harrison we're praying for them. Please, everywhere we all go, everyone has been sending their prayers, and it's working.
They're being answered. I feel it. I mean, we have felt these prayers. Unbelievable. All around the country, people that we don't even know. And wow, the power of prayer is real.
Oh, it really.
You got your majority whip back.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
I believe him to be a very good man. I believe him to be a God-fearing man. I believe him to, at his core, truly believe that he is fighting for what he feels is right. And I truly believe that the camaraderie that he showed to his whip, it was so heartwarming to see that I do believe that there is something in him that can and will come out eventually. From working with Donald Trump, from maybe having his whip back, I have faith now in Speaker Ryan again because I have seen his heart through this video. And I like what I saw. All right, folks, you may disagree. You may not agree with me. You may agree with me. I don't know. Let us know at www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. Comment on the blog postings of this and other shows. Let us know what you think. We're going to get used to this weekend thing, and also get used to some video possibly coming at us. We're going to maybe start doing this on video. We're starting to develop it now, Russ and I, and maybe we'll be doing some Facebook Live stuff in the near future. We have some starters to deal with. You know, we got to get some equipment and we got to do some certain things, but I'm excited for the future of the show. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm glad you're along with us. Once again, thank you to Robert Patillo for coming on the show. Check him out at Robert Patillo on the Twitters, on the Facebooks, on the Instagrams, and he's got a YouTube channel that we mentioned as well. Check that out as well. But until next week, when we go back behind enemy lines, Gene Baradelli saying it's time to shut this sucker down. We are out of here. Good night, folks.
Our position's been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. A Rock Radio production. Back in 7 days. Out.